everyone, welcome to class. Today's sequence is a great yoga practice for when you have tight hip flexors that just won't quit. We've all been there, especially sitting all day, standing all day. Why is it that regardless of which category you fall into, you're gonna have problems with your hip flexors, your back, maybe your knees? It's like you can't win. If you do one too much, it's gonna happen, right? So if you do have tight hip flexors, regardless of the cause, this is a good sequence that's gonna help undo some of that tension. I have a yoga block and a foam roller. A foam roller would be great, and if that's all you have, that's all you need. But if you got both, go ahead and have both on hand. And if you don't have a foam roller, you can skip the little bit that we use it if you'd like. Or you can use tennis balls instead, or a tennis ball like in a sock or something, like a long stocking. That'll work too. So whatever you like to use is fine. Let's go ahead and jump in. You don't need anything right away. We're gonna move into child's pose. So child's pose can feel especially annoying and uncomfortable if your hip flexors are really tight. So if that's the case, just bring your knees wider than you normally would, and then sit the hips back as much as you comfortably can and take the forehead down. So again, this is a flexion of the hip. So if your hip flexors are already really tight and tender, this just might not feel great. So adjust as you need to. We're not going to stay here long. On an inhale, I want you to look forward and kind of glide towards the front of your mat to a cobra up dog hybrid. So the elbows are bent, but you're pressing up a little higher than you normally would. Lift the chest and then bend the left knee, look over the left shoulder, extend that leg, bend the right knee, look over the right shoulder, extend that leg. Lay the chest down, come back to child's pose, just for 2 breaths. Look to the front of your mat, glide forward, come through to cobra, bend the elbows, shoulders back, bend the left knee, look over the shoulder, take it back, bend the right knee, look over the shoulder, take it back, lay it down, child's pose one more time, last round. And look forward. Last round of this too. Come forward, find cobra. Bend the left knee, look over that shoulder. Take it down. Bend the right knee, look over that shoulder. Take it down. Now sit it back. Find downward facing dog, lifting the hips high. Take a couple breaths here. Then look to the hands. Bring the left foot between the thumbs. Drop the right foot down. So you can keep the hands down on the floor if this feels better. Like especially if you want to focus on that hip flexor on the right side, take both hands to the inside of the foot and just let the hips drop forward. So it's like the pelvis gets really heavy here. If this feels like too much, you can always lift the chest up. Maybe keep the hands on the hips and you'll get a similar effect, but it might feel less intense. So pick whichever version feels better for you. Regardless of where you are, I want you to look back at the right knee and move it off to the right like 2 inches. So it's off center. On your next out breath, shift your hips back and you're gonna sit down on the inside of that right foot. You might have to move the right calf muscle like out of the way a little bit so you can sit. So you're in a half hero here. Just breathe. A lot of times the quads being tight will also contribute to the hip flexors being tight. So important not to neglect that spot. Now we're going to shift back into our kneeling lunge where we're focusing on that hip flexor directly. So drop your hips down. Whichever variation of that lunge felt best is what I want you to do. And we're going to shift back one more time and find that half hero pose. Sit at the inside of the right foot, move that right calf out of the way. We're gonna add something to this. So bring the left foot in, plant the foot down and take your hands down behind you. Lift the hips, scoop the pelvis up towards the sky. So you feel that super, very, very real stretch through the hip flexor on the right side and even into the quads. Inhale fully. Exhale, take the hips down, walk the left foot back out, plant the hands, step back to plank, lower down between the elbows and find cobra. So roll the shoulders back, lift up. Exhale, lower down. We're gonna do cobra again, but this time bend the knees and let the big toes touch. Inhale, lift the chest a little bit higher. Exhale, lower down. Take the legs back, tuck the toes, find downward facing dog. Look to the hands. Step the right foot between the thumbs, take the left knee down, and we're back to that kneeling lunge, but the variation that you like. Chest lifted, or you can keep the hands down and just let the hips get really heavy. Take a couple more breaths right here. And then take the left knee, walk it off to the left, like 2 inches. Slide the hips back, find half hero. So you're just gonna hang out right here for a couple breaths. Nothing too crazy. Just keep the chest lifted. Let's shift back to that kneeling lunge. Take your time getting there. Let the hips get heavy. 3 breaths. And one more time, shift your hips back. Sit down on the inside of that left foot. Adjust as you need to. Make sure the left knee is mostly in front of the hip, not too far off to the side. Bring the right foot in, plant it down. Fingers face the toes, roll the shoulders back, lift the hips, and scoop the pelvis up towards the sky. It won't look like it's scooping, but you'll feel like it is. Because again, those hip flexors should really feel something. 2 more breaths. And have a seat. Unhook that left foot. Just have a seat and get your foam roller. So we're going to do a little bit of myofascial release around the hip flexors. So a foam roller works really well, as does any of the other options I mentioned, like one of those massage balls or even a tennis ball. So sit up on your knees and find the hip flexors. It's right in this area below the hip bone, like below the bony part of the hip, and just a couple inches below that, moving in towards the quad. So that region right there is what you're going to focus on. And all you're going to do is bring that part to close to the edge of the foam roller, just so you don't fall off of it. And then use your opposite leg to prop yourself up like a kickstand, and just come down onto the forearms. So from here, you're not going to rock back and forth. You're just going to hold here so that there's pressure on that area that's a little tender. And you might roll down just like half an inch at a time and find the most tender part and then hold there. So you want to keep the pressure on whatever spot feels like, ooh, that's uncomfortable. And then just let your body weight rest there. It's the hardest part, I know. Take a few more breaths. And then press up to the hands. We're just going to do this same thing on the other side. I think foam rolling is a bit of a misnomer because you really aren't supposed to like rock and roll all over the thing. So finding that same spot on the other side, or the same general area, kickstand your left leg out so you can prop yourself up, and then just very slowly shift until you feel like, oh, there it is, tender spot, ouch. Hold that. You can tuck the right toes under if it's helpful to stay stabilized. And then you're just holding. Take about 4 more slow, deep breaths. And then slowly come up. So here you've got your option. If you only have a foam roller, that'll be perfectly fine. I'll also show you what I'm gonna do with the block because I'm gonna use a block. But foam roller, just slide it underneath your hips so that your butt is right on the foam roller and it feels really supported. You can use that, that's completely fine. I'm just gonna use a block because I have it. Put it on the medium height, sit your hips right on top of there. And either way, regardless of where you are, extend the left leg out and then pull the right knee in. And if you're not using a block or a foam roller for this, like if it feels like too much on the hip flexors, just come down to the floor and do this same position but flat on the mat. Really keep that left leg heavy so the heel is connected to the floor. Let the ankle roll open. And then let's switch it up. Extend the right leg, hug the left knee in. Really focus on the heaviness of that right foot. And slowly take both feet down to the floor. Lift the hips up. Let them come back down. Pull yourself up to a comfortable seat. Relax the knees. Relax the shoulders. Close the eyes. Take a couple deep breaths. And gently bring the hands up to the heart center. Let the eyes blink open. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed class. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you right back here next time. Thank you so much for joining me for class today. Let me know how this one felt in the comments below. As usual, if you enjoyed this, be sure to head over to Bad Yogi Studio where you can find the full 30-day version of this challenge inside. There's over 350 classes inside Bad Yogi Studio, from ones that'll make you sweat to ones that'll just ground and relax you, and literally everything in between. So be sure to check it out. Anyway, that's all for today. Be sure to join me right back here for tomorrow's class, and I'll see you then.